Spirits medium Julie Simpson and guests delve into the world of spirit, the faith and the way of life, renewing the movement that brought two worlds together and ancient spiritual beliefs to the forefront of society, proving once and for all there is nothing to fear in talking to spirit. Live in the SOC radio chat room on spiritualistsonline.com, or simply listen in at tunein.com and search for SOC Radio.
And good morning from New Zealand. Well, it's actually just getting into the afternoon. It's just after noon New Zealand time, and it's Julie Sock with Spirit Talks. Welcome aboard. Hi to everybody in the chat room. Hi to everybody listening at TuneIn and on our various outlets for SOC Radio. I'm just letting you guys know now. This is going to be a rather interesting show because we've got a very special guest with us who's not only on holiday but working her way around the globe and is currently in Hawaii. Now, I've talked to this lady before and she's doing some amazing projects, bringing people together and working on various different humanitarian projects around the globe. I want to introduce you to Miss Destiny. How you doing, Destiny?
Wonderful. Can you hear me there?
Yep, tad quiet. I'll do my best to turn your volume up.
I'll just speak as loudly as
Sponsors.
I can.
Okay, lovely. And so whereabouts on the Hawaiian Islands are you?
I'm in Kauai at the moment.
In Kauai?
It's very beautiful. There's amazing mountains and caves and beaches, and I got to swim with the dolphins the other day.
Oh, now I'm jealous. Swimming with the dolphins. So what have you been working on? What kind of projects have you been doing in Hawaii?
So I've been working with a few different groups of people who are helping to set up some systems and support structures around different communities here and different farms, and also being able to set up different, global networking systems and strategies and some blueprints for processes to be able to collaborate with either individuals or projects. So there's been some amazing conferences with different people, different projects all over the world, some like Ubuntu, there's United Earth, New Earth Nation, New Earth Projects, and some other festivals, as well as the upcoming Divine Masculine and Feminine Rising Summit that will be at the end of April and the 1st of May.
Now you're setting these kind of things up all over the place, aren't you?
I certainly am. So one of the things that I'm setting up is called the Great Gatherings, and they're a physical gathering where people come in ceremony and celebration, and then people can register if you're a humanitarian or you have a visionary project. You can register to present this for collaboration with other like people. So I'm getting a group of people all over the world to set themselves up as a host and to be able to have access to, I guess you could say, the blueprints that I've put together for these different events, and then also to be able to collaborate with different groups of people and projects who have similar events and also processes in place.
So what happens with these events? Are these just gatherings? Are they sharings? Are they demonstrations? Or are they actually working on projects in the area to build things?
So at this stage, the Great Gathering is about connecting to people in your area who are visionaries and humanitarians and finding out with clarity what it is that your vision or your project, if you have a project, is, what resources you have and what resources you need, and then coming together on a different day and being able to create an action plan and an accountability process for how you can merge what you're doing with other people and how we can all support one another. So it can be in any field. It can be either a tech project if it's for humanity. It can be something to do with food. It could be to do with shelter, community. There's multifaceted ways that I'm sure there's different people I've connected to have. So some of it's like social engineering. Some of it's like new paradigm alchemy, different ways of being able to create marketing and media in a much more sustainable and ethical way, and anybody that really resonates to something that you're doing, and then being able to have a really supportive framework for how you can come together and take actions together to be able to either support one another or just make the project that you already have grow much faster.
Excellent. So, what got you into all this? I mean, I've got to say, for what you've done in such a short time. What brought you into this? What got you inspired to start working and travelling around the world to do this kind of humanitarian work?
Well, I've always had this vision since I was a child, and I kind of feel like it was just lying dormant until the right time in my life, where everything just started becoming activated. So I dropped out of high school because from how I felt my soul rejected the current medical system, the current political system, the current education system, my soul just didn't feel resonance. So it almost rebelled and went into almost isolation. And then I started researching what I could of philosophy and alternative healing, and that just awakened a whole new world to me of what the ancient civilizations knew. And then I really resonated with different countries. So initially my travels as a nomad began just over 2 years ago, just after my mum passed away, and that kind of shifted my whole reality and paradigm around life and death and what I had been told about it and what I currently had perceived and what that transformed into. And then I decided to go traveling overseas, and I went to a lot of countries that a lot of philosophers do, and had a fascination with the ancient civilizations, so places like Egypt and India and China. And that trip was just, to the most part, it was a holiday. I started writing, and that kind of activated my inspiration and passion for writing. And then I was just seeking how I could have a really holistic life following my bliss. And it kind of skirted everything else. My current business, Inspire Destiny, it kind of sparked my vision of the Inspire Unity movement, which is connected to a series of festivals that I'm connecting with, one in Australia, and a documentary that I'm in the process of having people all over the world be part of the creation of, not only be involved in being filmed, but being involved as being part of the film crew all over the world, and then premiering that at festivals. So really just having unity and peace and love at the core of my being, and being able to find ways in everyday life to be able to embody that and to be able to celebrate and I guess see the sacredness in the mundane. And a lot of stuff, just like, you know, a flower reaching up to the sun, it just evolved naturally from there.
Mm-hmm. So on your journeys you must have met some amazing people. Have you got some stories you can tell us about the different people that you've met?
Yeah, one of the most recent people that I met that's pretty profound, and this is quite relative to a couple of the things I've been guided to work on at the moment in the way of giving some tools to people around sovereignty, is his name's Megeso, or he goes by Megeso, and part of his name is actually related to the white eagle. He lives here in Hawaii, and he's currently been working to, I guess, reinstate his sovereignty. He does not use normal number plates as a sovereign being, based on a law that he understands from research of the extension of what law we're told about. From 3 years ago, he had a charge relating to not using proper plates on his car, and a few days ago he had his final court case, which was dismissed because of the language that he is aware of around the law and legalities, where the current system in place was actually not using its own laws, so it was putting itself in a very confrontational situation where it could be completely pulled down from the inside out. So meeting him, he is a shaman, but he gives his services for free. And that was something that was very profound for me, and something that really resonates as I do a lot of humanitarian visionary work. It's not something that I necessarily aspire to seek funds for. I like having support in the way of people getting involved, and he did a few healings on me which were very expansive for me, removing any blocks in the way of my own journey. And it connected me very much to my parallel lifetime as a Native American, which has been coming up a lot for me to heal. And just the people that he's connected to, he has some amazing processes and things that he's put in place, almost like a business model that around education for children and support for women who are pregnant or have children, and community strategies that I feel once he has the support and he's put them in place in Kuwait, there'll be a really powerful blueprint to be able to spread all over the world. And he's been working on this for quite some time. There's other people who I know very much connected to him who have been working on different systems and processes for really evolutionary, sustainable models for both online social media connections and physical sustainable resources like sustainable farms and sustainable communities that they've not necessarily released yet, that they've been working on for over 10 years, and I've been privileged to be able to connect with them and encourage them to put it in presentation and connect them to a few other people to present this to. So for me, it just keeps me really inspired that I'm meeting these people who are actually out there with similar ideas to myself, and that they have their own unique vibration of what that means to them and how they've interpreted it. And for me, I just like to be able to be around and be able to support them and connect them to anybody else who seems to have something similar, and then that can support one another and have it grow exponentially.
It sounds like an amazing journey that you're on at the moment. So where's your next stop? Where are you heading off to after you've done the Hawaii side?
I feel like before I leave, I'll be going to Maui. I feel very guided. I had a dream about Doreen Virtue a few days ago, which was interesting, and then her recent video yesterday to do with this week's reading was actually a whole lot of synchronicities related to me. That Medeso, who I was mentioning earlier, actually watched it, and he watched it to the end, and she was actually talking about the divine masculine and feminine, and like I was talking about my summit before, and very connected to Archangel Michael, and the first card was related to that, and it was talking about some fears around love, and there's a few things that have been like coming up 100% relevant to me, and a few other synchronicities around my spirit animal. So one of my spirit animals is the phoenix, and the day that I came back to, you could say, technology, I was offline in a cave for 2 days because I wanted some clarity and I felt I needed solitude, and caves are representative of the womb of Gaia, so I went and felt comforted, almost like a rebirth, and 2 people tagged me on Facebook when I came back online to do with the phoenix. And one of my close friends who I met here, she actually has 2 friends that live in Maui, and their child's name is Phoenix, and one of Doreen Virtue's recent cats is called Phoenix. And my original birth name, which is Cynthia, is actually connected through much research. If you connect it to Greece, it's connected to the moon goddess, the Greek moon goddess Artemis. But if you connect Artemis to to Egypt, it's connected to Sekhmet and Bastet, which is the lion-headed goddess and the cat-headed goddess. So there was a lot of synchronicities around that. And then when I had a dream several days ago about Doreen Virtue, and she was talking to me about being a fairy queen, and then in her reading yesterday she was even talking about fairies. She was going into depth about fairies, and I resonate strongly to the fae realm. It was just too much. So I feel very guided to Maui, and from there, potentially at some stage I will definitely be going to South America. I'm planning to visit some shamans in Peru and also going to visit family in Brazil. I have feelings that my destination will take me to Europe to connect with different groups and to see some sacred sites like Stonehenge. At some point before going back to Australia, I'm planning to go to Japan to see some sacred sites there. So just a lot of different chakra points. So pilgrimaging at the same time as working and connecting all these dots that Spirit's given to me.
Yeah, well, I've got to say I am absolutely amazed with what you've managed to pull together while being literally on the move, and the web work that you've done, the pulling these festivals together and getting various groups getting together to share all this information and to expand the knowledge, not just because it's helping those people at the festivals, but because it's pulling people together to doing various projects around the world, and helping out in their own countries. like you say, it's not just where you're at, but you're expanding it across the world, and people are taking up your projects and doing them elsewhere and in their own hometowns.
Yeah, it's all about collaboration, and I feel like right now as we're going through different vibrational frequencies, we're like primed and ready. Gaia is supporting our integration and unification within, and all of our soul family and galactic family, I feel, are really much doing the same thing, holding that space for all of us to feel unified, both in our polarized masculine and feminine, and then also collectively as we are connected to Source.
Just a little bit of explanation for our listeners. Our guest today, Cynthia Jaunt, also known as Destiny, is currently traveling and is in Hawaii. And you've utilized everything from hostels to backpackers, that kind of place, to stay in, to keep all costs down. So the background noise that you're all hearing is because you're actually in one of those hostels now, aren't you?
Actually, I've been staying in communities most of the time that I've been traveling. I'm actually at a mini gold at the moment because the people who I'm staying with don't have internet connection. Mm-hmm. So I've been working, and this is probably one of the places that's not going to be disturbed by having people talking. Sometimes I work at the library. But there's not too many places here in Kauai yet that have like a space for people to do conferences, unless you have your own place. And one of the places I was staying at, I was doing conferences in their lounge room, but because there's a big group of people who live there, it wasn't necessarily ideal for everybody. So yeah, I allow the resources to show up and utilize every single thing that I have available to me, and it's been amazing to be able to see things in that light rather than seeing what I don't have.
So what's the age range of the people that are you're meeting and those that are getting involved? Do you find that there's a certain age group, and are there a lot more younger people getting involved?
I've met people of all different age groups. Some of them have been working on things recently, some of them have been working on things for their whole lives. Some of the youngest people I've had who are working on even big projects like myself are as young as 24.
Okay, can you describe a typical project that you're getting underway within an actual community?
The biggest project within the communities, it's mostly about social unity and having a sustainable model where some of the rooms in the communities don't necessarily need to be rented out. So there's several people who I've met who are actually putting together the framework for sustainable community structures where you'll implement particular strategies and they'll create enough revenue to cover all living costs of anybody who is there, so that people can come and, you know, play music or draw and do art or, you know, do whatever it is their heart called them to. And this is very similar to a couple of other models, but to also have it in a way that there is like a sustainable business model involved in the sustainable community model. So there is revenue, regardless of what the currency is that's being used. There is income coming through that covers all needs for survival. So people don't necessarily need to feel like they're stuck in a particular way doing something they don't want to do. There's several different communities I've been to in different locations that have like but similar models, and now it's just about having all of the written and the diagrams come to physical reality, with a few of them connecting. And I've been on several calls just facilitating processes and growth of these things for different groups. Some of them in the United States, some of them in Hawaii, some of them in Europe, and just really being able to, for me, it's about finding that common denominator between different groups where they can connect and where they can create a sustainable process of connecting what is necessary for them to be able to thrive much quicker. Whether it be abundance, whether it be people, whether it be whatever resource it is that they're needing, that somebody within that group and the collective and that sphere of influence will have it. So there's different age groups that I've met people who own the property and who have the space. And I guess some of them are just seeking all of the means to be able to attract funds, sometimes from philanthropists who have excess money and they're looking for people who have crossed all the I's and dotted all the T's for something that will grow and will thrive, that they're able to get, enough resources back from.
Excellent. It's an amazing project that you've taken on. Are you actually traveling alone, or do you have people that you meet up with on the way?
Primarily it's alone, but I've met different people, I've met up with different people who I had known through online, who are working on different projects. Sometimes it's just spirits guided me somewhere, and then I'll connect to all of the people who resonate with the same vibration as me, who are doing similar things, or soul family met from other incarnations.
So you're actually drawing people who you've met online to your projects?
That, or I'll just draw people to me energetically, where I'm in a vicinity, but I feel guided. Like I feel like most of my grounding is within the now. So I have ideas around where I'll be and why I'll be there, and sometimes it's similar, and sometimes it's much more expanded than what I probably could have comprehended at the conception point of the idea or the download.
So how are you finding that getting funding for this? You mentioned getting philanthropists in and how people seem to pull together. How are you marketing this to be able to get people interested in literally funding other people and other projects that maybe wouldn't even affect them?
There's a few different things that I've been collecting information on, and also finding out what's the most effective, both for me personally to fund my travels as I'm working on a lot of projects. Some of the projects I'm working on aren't necessarily for my personal needs to be met. Most of them actually aren't for my personal needs to be met. But as far as other people's structures and strategies, there's a lot around using video footage and also sharing the values that we have in exchange for funding. So even if we don't physically have funds, we potentially have land, or we have food, or we have people with musical abilities, or we have people with art skills. So everybody has a value. So it's about, I guess, finding who has the money and what it is they're potentially wanting that can have their life even more value. Some people that are out there, I believe, are just wanting to be able to put their money into something that will help future generations. If they have children, if they have a family, a lot of these projects are not just for the person or for the community. They're for the whole world. So these people are putting processes and strategies and testing things out within their own community, but then they're wanting to create a template that can be used everywhere. So it's investing in our future. It's a big thing, but I feel like using videos and also putting up that it's not a matter of a donation per se, it's a matter of we're fundraising. This is what people are paying for, this is what people will be able to get, and they're also investing in their future. They're investing in the future of the earth, the future of their thriving, not just survival, but they're investing in a world of thriving peace and happiness. And if I had extra money, which when I do have extra money, I always share it around, for me, that's what I would want to be investing in, because that's what I invest all my time into. And for me, my time is my most valuable asset, because it's with that time I create money. It's with that time I could create food. It's with that time I could create shelter.
Amazing. I've got to say, when you're heading home, when you're heading back to Australia, how do you see this developing, or is it going to be an ongoing project and further journeys, or do you see yourself forming a base whereby you're organising this from a single base but still working around the world?
I feel like I'll be having bases all over the world. As I've traveled to different countries, I have been connecting with groups and helping to evolve their community to have a base to come back to. But at the same time, I feel like I'll be connecting with those who have a similar vision to me to create a massive base in Australia. It's not just my base. There'll be a base for anybody who is seeking what has been created. And I've connected with several people in Australia who have a similar vision, who need more people and resources that I'm in the process of connecting them to before I get back there. And whether it be a donation of land or whether it be a donation of people's time, the specifics are still being defined because I won't be back in Australia for at least 4 months. And I guess to a lot of people that's not very long, but for me, I seem to be able to do a lot with a short period of time. And I have faith that with the right people and the right focus and the right supportive foundations, anything can happen in a really short period of time.
We're slightly losing you there with the background noise and the internet, my love. But what I wanted to say before we do lose you, this work that you're doing inspires, as you say, the communities that you're working in. Are you managing to get it within the structure or the infrastructure, as in educating in schools, in colleges, in areas that you're working in, so that it's remaining and following off after you've left?
Some of the things that I'm leaving behind in these communities, it will be integrated into what they're doing. A lot of the people who are heading these projects are very much like myself. So they're not necessarily traveling all over the world yet, but they have greater visions of creating a really sustainable, based on the natural flow of life, blueprint that incorporates, education, childbirth, that incorporates food in sustainable ways, that incorporates water, that incorporates shelter, that incorporates every single thing that we need to thrive as beings. So I've met phenomenal people who have showed me their current plans, and then for me it was a matter of connecting them to other people and seeing what is relevant for me to be involved, what bases have already been covered and what bases can I cover. If it's being able to share with them what I know about being able to create more revenue or support or create events for fundraisers or whatever it is that I have that they may not necessarily be aware of, I can just shed light on it for them. And then I can potentially have a place to stay and also am able to be connected to seeing the worlds that I envision unfolding.
And what faiths do you see getting involved? Is this across the board, or are you finding a specific area are drawn to you, or is it literally across the board?
Did you say faith? What area of faith?
Yeah, what faith?
Most of the people that I see, they have a faith in humanity, they have a faith in love, they have a faith in a God of many names. They're mostly people that are very expanded in their awareness. It's not about a particular doctrine. The doctrine is love and unity, which is what I hold in my heart, and connection to a higher power, but that higher power not necessarily needing to be defined within a structure of a name, because with words that can actually, I guess, contain its full expansive potential. And if you see the light and the love of what I guess I feel is the creator, it's ineffable. It's not something that is able to be defined within words, and sometimes even not within experience, but experience is a much greater way to be able to understand it than a word would be. So I don't like to define it with a word. It's just for me a greater power that I believe supports me infinitely, and that I am a massive part of, that I'm never separated from, and that, there are different individuals with different conscious vibrations that are there to both be students and teachers like all of us, and that every point that we are is exactly where we're meant to be for our own conscious awareness. That's the philosophy that I hold, and I feel like it's very aligned in multiple ways to a lot of the people who I'm meeting, who are creating projects and implementing these projects for a unified world.
Okay, and
a unification of peace. So to be united with a common goal of having peace and harmony.
Okay, and we all know when you're trying to do these kinds of projects, there's always some kind of red tape and hoops that you've got to jump through with local governments, local organisations, etc. Are you finding that they are on board with what you're trying to do, or are they? Have you had to fight some really jump through some hoops to get through some red tape?
On my journey at this stage, no. I have heard a few people who have had potentials. What I'm feeling energetically on a collective level, which is why I feel like these, I guess you could say, projects are evolving at a much faster rate, and we're all connecting without the perceived limitations of distance and borders, is that it's something that's being transcended. Like the current things that are for restriction are almost falling on the head. And if it's being given energy and fear, it's going to, help it to create whatever it is. Whereas if it's just been sent love and knowingness, that was a time in humanity's, I guess, evolution that is not necessarily for our highest good anymore. That's how I see it. It no longer resonates to what our potential is and what our future potential is. So I don't feel the need to even focus on it, and anything that's out there that is attempting to create fear or restriction is only to keep itself in its own power. And it can be in that power on its own. It doesn't need other beings to be controlled by it to have its own power. Its true power, which is in source and love, and in our core, and in connectivity.
So what's this big gathering that you've got coming off in the next few weeks? What's happening there?
Well, the Great Gathering, the one that I currently have, and there is going to be more details on the NENYN, the New Earth New You Now as well, .org website. It's going to be a series of gatherings over the next 3 months that people can appoint themselves as a host and hold a space where humanitarians and visionaries can come and put together a particular presentation based on a certain period of time, sharing what their project or their idea and their vision is, where it's at, what resources they need and what resources they have to share. And then anybody aligned comes together the following day and connects to them. So at this stage, the first one is going to be this weekend in New Mexico, in the United States, in Albuquerque. And there are details, there will be details for that on the website, and it is also searchable on Facebook as The Great Gathering. So if anybody out there is on Facebook and interested in looking into it, if they know anybody who lives around those areas, or if they're interested in just sending through a presentation to be shown. So they don't necessarily have to physically be there. The event will be filmed, and it will be used as part of the blueprint for others to be able to see what they can create. It's not going to be a restriction, it's just going to be, this is a framework that you can utilize to be able to create a like vision of bringing people together who are wanting to make positive change, and how they can then use what it is they have to connect with others and to be able to support each other. And then there's the Divine Masculine and Feminine Rising Summit, which is online, and that will be on the website as well. And that is a 3-day online summit. People talking about twin flames, sacred sexuality, how you can rise into your divine masculine and feminine, how you can create unity within yourself, within your androgynous nature. And there's people from all over the world speaking about aspects of what that means and tools that you can use to do that.
Absolutely amazing to think that you've put it all together while being on the road. It's just fantastic what you're accomplishing. What would you say? What would you think would be your main target? I mean, you're saying this is ongoing and will be forever rebuilt, forever building. What would you say would be your ultimate target?
My ultimate target at this point, I'd perceive for this year, I'd say short term, is by the end of the year, having had aligned festivals to the one in Australia, synchronized of a like vibration, the same time in October, and to have this documentary premiere at all of them to raise the vibration into a unified state. and to have these gatherings and also festivals in 5 to 6 countries. To have the great gatherings happen intermittently in several countries, maybe every few months, to have regular conference calls with some of the people at these, to have a framework of what I'm calling spheres of influence. So different groups of people who have other groups of people within different major spheres of influence that we need on Earth, whether it be media, food, resources, education, to be able to have regular conversations online and in person, where they're putting together strategies and action plans for how we can progress as a unified family of Earth, and to also have regular summits occurring every month that also have affiliate summits that people can come and they can register their summit, and we can use our support and resources for us to broadcast their summit. All of these things, people are interested, just need to be of a particular vibration, which is mainly based around the intent of unifying for peace and harmony on Earth. That's the simple intent of it. And to have several summits and several affiliations and sponsors, and then to also be back in Australia and have at least the beginning stages of a sustainable community that has been growing in Australia, and then to have that connected to those that I've already connected to all over the world.
How do you cope with what's... How do you cope with what many governments are doing now, which is basically shutting down the those who want to live off-grid or off the land without being part of, let's say, the society? I mean, it's in some places now in the States, you're not even allowed to collect your own rainwater. You're not even allowed to have your own hereditary seeds to grow foods with. So how are you coping with all that kind of thing that are basically society is trying to shut out of and forcing people back into mainstream society?
The way that I deal with that on a personal level, and then I'll tell you what I suggest on a collective level, is I hold a space within myself for that to not exist, and to hold a space of connection and unity and sovereignty to source and the universal laws that trump any restrictive man-made law or power to possess and control other sovereign beings. And some of the processes of that are doing meditations on sovereignty and unification within myself, and seeing that everything happening outside me is an aspect of myself, potentially my shadow. I shed light on it. I send it love, and I allow myself to believe it was a part of my experience that I'm now letting go because it doesn't serve me. And then holding that space for the outside reality to finally mirror the internal reality that I'm creating. And then on a collective level, I guess I share this with other people, and I write articles and I put programs together to help inspire people to see their own sovereignty, so that they're no longer restricted by those limitations that are put in principalities, and they're not necessarily something that really restricts us unless we turn our power into it and say it has power over us, and that we let the fear isolate us and corrupt us into believing that we're not sovereign. There's a lot of universal laws that people are able to utilize, some of which is the universal law of attraction, which is most well-known one, around manifesting. When you embody the vibration that you want, you will attract it to you. And when enough people do that, it creates a collective reality.
So do you see yourself becoming an activist to get all this put back into local government and politics, so that you don't have to fight the red tape, so that they can see that the benefits of such an awareness and such a development within communities to help each other?
For me, that's not something that resonates. I don't believe in fighting. I'm not somebody that feels like a fight creates what it is I'm embodying. I feel like seeing it for where it is and not judging it, and sending it love and allowing it to be released from my being, and then being an advocate. Rather than fighting it, being an advocate and holding space for it to vanish, or for it to do whatever it needs to do within its own reality. So it's not like I'm attempting to feel the need to change it or eradicate it. I'm just working on creating something else and holding the space for creating something else. It doesn't need to fight. It doesn't need to force. It's just something that's in balance and harmony and designed based on universal law.
Yeah, so you're educating by example.
I feel like that's the most powerful thing that I can do as a being, and that anybody can do, embracing their sovereignty. And if someone is curious enough with what is happening to me or to somebody else, and they ask a series of questions of the processes that are being used, I'm always happy to share them. And I'm quite often sharing them, either in video content or in several of the books that I'm writing that Spirit's guided me to write. One of the most recent ones that I'll be releasing, I'd say within the next 4 months, is called The Spiritual Nomad's Guide to Life. And it's distilling the essence of what I've learned about life. And for me, feeling unified and having a sense of wellness and vitality in my life based on going to some of the, what people would see as extremes that I've gone to, like sleeping on beaches or, you know, just all sorts of different things. Traveling with near no money sometimes because I'm not focusing on money as the need. I'm focusing on being supported and having food and having shelter and being around really amazing people as my focus. And those things have just naturally occurred. So when I need to have funds for something else, I focus my energy on that and it comes to me because that's where my focus is at. But these different tools and tips that I've learned from experience, I'm finding out what is the simplest way of determining a skill or a tool somebody can utilize, but they don't need to go traveling around the world like me if they don't want to, or they don't need to go sleep on a beach or in a cave if they don't want to. I'm not telling them they can't, I'm just telling them if they don't want to, they can still utilize the essence of what I've learned in a really practical way. So the book will be structured in 11 prime pillars of the things that I've learned with actionable steps, and then also tips and experiences from 11 other spiritual nomads. At this stage, there's no website, but there will be details that will be getting shared on the newernow.org website and also on the Facebook page.
And your work and business within Australia also includes the Inspired Living events, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Inspired Living events is something that I'm wanting to, for one, it's something that I both sponsor and also is a sponsor of pretty much all of my projects. So for me, it's connecting Kelly, the owner, to those people who are wanting to have events all over the world, and I know she already does know some people, and then to be able to potentially have some of these great gatherings connected as being part of the Inspired Living events. So a portion of these events could be watching, you know, the documentaries that happen at these events, inspiring people. I resonate very much. I was fortunate that I was able to be a public speaker at one of these events when I was in Australia. It was actually one of my first official in-person public speaking gigs a few years ago. And I really resonated to all of the different, I guess you could say, energetic seeds that were planted within people by having a space of people coming together and collaborating, sharing really sustainable ways of living, and then seeing an educational documentary around people doing this in different areas and people's research on how it is possible. And it's also fun, and then being able to have, you know, speakers come up and share their own experiences. I feel that is the best way to educate people, where it's around fun, it's around connection, it's around interaction with others, and I feel that is a massive catalyst for how education can thrive in the future, where we're coming together and we're watching something fun and educational where we don't even know we're learning. And learning is essentially meant to be around fun. You have an interest in something, you go and play with it like when you're a child, you discover different aspects of it without having to have such a limitation. So as well as that, I know that other key aspects of Inspired Living events is also the Inspired Living Kids. That's something that I'm very passionate about helping to sponsor and support, and also connect to several other groups of people and organizations that are there to help educate our youth in an empowered way, where they also are able to understand their own sovereign power, and where they don't feel the need to have to stick to a particular box of limitation, and how they are meant to be, where they can feel empowered and supported and loved with who they are as an individual and what really makes them feel happiness.
Again, I've got to say, for somebody, and I hate to say it, somebody so young, putting so many to shame for the inspiration that you've given so many people around you, and putting your energies to such great targets and aims, and not only, like say, in your own home country, but across the world. I want to say a big thank you to you for joining us. I know it takes something to do to get your internet where you're at, but just let people know where again they can find you and where they can get in touch with you.
Well, on a personal level, people can reach out to me. I usually am quite good at returning messages. Through there is a Facebook page called Cynthia Josh, CYNTHIAJAUCH. That is my personal, my professional public figure page. I prefer people message me through that. If somebody is interested in really being involved in one of the projects that I mentioned, they can email me at inspiredestiny, INSPIREDESTINY, number 4, so the digit 4 at gmail.com. The website, my business website is inspiredestiny.com.au, and the one for the summit and a lot of the connecting affiliations of the Inspire Unity movement is either newearthnewyou.org or NENYN.org.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us, Destiny. Fantastic. Every time I speak to you, it fascinates me where you get your energy from, where you get your ideas from, and how you seem to draw people to you that just seem to fit with what you're doing and what your needs are at the time. And I think that's what the world needs a lot more of.
Mahalo. But thank you in Hawaiian. I feel guided to briefly share something with the audience. I guess I feel a lot of people usually pose the question to me, if your name is Cynthia, why are you going by Destiny? So if you don't mind, I wanted to briefly really have a short explanation. So I discovered a lot about what I feel is my spiritual growth and evolution, parallel lifetimes through the name Cynthia. As I mentioned, to do with my name earlier, the Artemis, the moon goddess. If you research Cynthia, it goes back to Greece. If you research the connection, it goes back to Egypt. That unfolded a few things for me, and several years ago, the word destiny really stuck with me when I was traveling. I created a blog called Inspire Destiny and one called Traveler Destiny. Inspire Destiny was more about wellness. That became my core business. And Traveler Destiny became all about traveling and my experiences while traveling. It's actually the name of one of my novel series. And through my journey at a spiritual retreat that I went to in Australia, there was an aspect that was a meditation to retrieve your soul's name. And through this process, I discovered that my soul's true name was Destiny. And there was many signs around that. And as I came on this journey, leaving Australia almost 6 months ago, I think it was a few months into my travels that I was actually guided to start using my soul's name, that I had let go of what I needed to learn of my name as Cynthia, because really, what is a name? I am way more than what a name is. It's just so people can identify to me. And the name Destiny felt of a more unified collective vibration. That if I said my name was Destiny, the first thing people think of is not necessarily this person standing in front of them. It's their own destiny.
They look forward, don't they? When you hear that word, they automatically look forward.
And I felt like that was something that people were really getting from my presence. And that then resonated because my business was already Inspire Destiny. And I'd already had the word around me. And there was one interesting experience was I was reading a book that gets you to test the collective field. And it tells you to give a set time that the collective field is supposed to give you proof it exists. So I did this experiment, and the following day, a friend who didn't know what my soul's name was, I hadn't expressed that to them, sent me a photo of an oracle card that they had I'd used many times before. And the card that they sent me the photo of was the Destiny card. And the character on the card looked exactly like me, and I'd never noticed it before. And that was less than 12 hours after I tested this. So it was very interesting. And then I realized that there was numerous other synchronistic connected occurrences around it. So when I was guided to go by Destiny, just before I got to Standing Rock in North Dakota in the United States, to be part of a peaceful protest, which was mostly praying and holding space and helping to just hold love and peace and the highest potential for this space within my heart, I seemed to meet a bunch of people who actually said that they had been guided they would meet someone with my name. And there were multiple synchronicities. So I continued to vibrate from what I understand as destiny.
It literally feels like you've released the physical constraints of an early life, and your journey has brought you to that realization that is literally taking you to what will be eventually will be your ultimate destiny, and it's given you the perfect name for it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not attached to any name. I've resonated to multiple names of different aspects of self, like an aspect of my ego I referred to from when I was younger as Candy, which is obviously doesn't even seem to be related, but it was just something that always followed me around that I resonated to. So I believe we all have different aspects of self, and my goal is to unify all of these aspects. Like there's aspects of ourselves outside of us, and there's aspects within us. So it doesn't matter what name we deem it as, it's for the principle of communication. So if someone knows you and you want them to remember you, you'll give a name of identification. And I don't necessarily feel sometimes the need to even be identified. Unless I'm wanting someone to remember me or somebody to find me, I don't need an identification.
It's part of being part of the whole, isn't it?
Exactly. And I feel that, people, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a name if you want to use your name or you want to be identified, but there is often times where I don't feel being identified is necessary. A lot of these projects that I'm working on, I feel that they work through me, and I feel that they come to existence because of every single one of us. It's not just me. The vibration that we're all living in and the place that we currently live in is all based on all of us collectively. And that's where I give the credit to everything that I may be doing. It's being able to exist, and I'm able to exist because of every other being that is here.
Well, I do know that you
that's
have
where
got...
I give my grace.
I do know that in your website and in your work, you have got an amazing amount of sponsors, of people who and groups who are backing you to the hilt, and which is evidence itself that you are bringing not only people together to help themselves, but communities, conglomerates and businesses together to help those that they need to help. And again, I've got to say, to do this on the road and what you've pulled together puts a lot of others to shame who sit in the little offices thinking that they can't make a difference in the world. And you're proving just
I just hope it inspires them to be able to open their potential. It's not to put anyone to shame, but that's not what I'm...
To inspire.
Yeah, to inspire them to release whatever it is that they feel is their obstacle, and to be able to open up to whatever their heart desires for them to do, and their infinite potential, which we all have. And, at a very minimum, that's just what I would like people to be able to take from it. It's not about giving me the praise. I in no way necessarily desire to have the praise or need the praise, although I'm humbled and really respectful and grateful for it. It's not something that I do this for. it's just as much of a reward to see it happening and being a part of it than it is, you know, to have somebody's thanks. I know for me, somebody going out and, you know, living their sovereignty and their full potential, that in itself is like a profound thanks to me. That's saying that they've seen what I was doing and they felt it, and they then were activated to go out and live their potential and to live their most happy, well life possible. That is the best thanks that I could ever expect, and for me that would just be so profoundly pleasurable and well received that I can't even fathom how that would feel. And I'm very honoured. The places I've been and the work that I've been doing, I've just been in a very great space of honour and respect and gratitude for both the people I've connected to and their work, and also the work that I've been able to be involved with.
Excellent. Thank you very much again, Destiny, for joining us today, and best of luck on your journey. I know you're moving on again very shortly, and please do keep in touch with us.
Thank you so much. Much love to all of you. Peace, love and light.
Take care. Thank you very much for joining us. Cynthia Jaunch, otherwise known as Destiny Faye. You can check her out on Facebook, Destiny Faye Palladian on Facebook. You can see her at the New Earth website. That's NENYN.org. The New Earth New You Now website, and also via inspiredlivingevents.com, and all the events that they're sponsoring and working with in Australia and around the world. An amazing lady to talk to, and I hope it has inspired those who think that there's nothing they can do to help the universe or the world around you, when in fact all you have to do is walk out the door and see that atmosphere around you and what you need to do to help others, as well as helping yourself. This has been Julie Sock speaking to Cynthia Jaunch from Hawaii. We will be back in a fortnight's time, and in the meantime check out SOC Radio for all the new shows that are coming on board. And also, of course, spiritualistonline.com, where we've got an amazing amount of new workshops joining us. Throughout the next month, we've got at least 5 brand new workshops coming onto the timetable. And the Facebook is changing. It's going to the like pages. So please do check out facebook.com/SOC Radio and /spiritualistonline.com. We've also, of course, got the Friends of SOC Radio webpage on Facebook, where you can find us and listen to all the shows that we've got. We've also got our encores being played now on YouTube. So check it out. Check out, search SOC Radio, and you'll find all about what we're doing. We're going to go back now to playing some encores from past shows over the last few months, which now also includes the encores from, and I'll get this right this time, the Enlightened Conversation Series 1 and 2 from Michelle Lightworker and the Lightworker Reflections team, and the Enhanced Conversation hosts. And a bit of a surprise, yours truly is being interviewed in a couple of hours to join, not only to do a bit of a conversation for that one, but to launch my own series on Enlightened Conversations, hopefully as of next month. So lots happening at SOC Radio, and with our connected partners in visionscoalition.com, a whole new website created and community created to help and inspire, to spread the news and the word of spirit and self-awareness and development, and just as Destiny shows you what you can do to help the world and your little piece of it, or on a wider project. Time to get involved, folks. Once again, this has been Julie Sock on SOC Radio, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time if not before. Take care, and may Spirit guide and keep you.
You have been listening to Spirit Talk with Julie Sock on SOC Radio. Brought to you by Spiritualists Online Network and Lyceum at spiritualistsonline.com. Thanks for listening.